First of all, thank you for coming to see me about your son Ty and the English teacher. I think that it would be most beneficial if we can get Miss Duncan and Ty in here and talk about it as a group. If that does not work for you, that's fine. I would say, however, I have a couple of things. First, I'm curious on how he does not turn in his work. Um, I would make sure to tell Ty that he needs to turn it in. He gets it done at home, so the easiest part would be just to turn it in once he gets to school, especially if it's in his backpack ready. There's no point in spending time at home doing it just to not turn it in when you get to school. Second, I will make sure to address the concerns that you have on Miss Duncan picking on Ty, and I will talk to her and see what is going on inside the classroom. I will then see what we can do to better combat this problem, in which to try to get Ty in a better spot in her class. I also want to take a second and make sure that Ty is okay with his other classes. Because if there's problems with his other classes, I want to make sure so that I can maybe address those concerns with other teachers as well. But from what it sounds like we're in a good spot for the other classes. If this is the only class, then we can figure out some way to get around this and have him be successful for the rest of the year in Miss Duncan's class. Overall, I think we need to at least get Ty in here to get his perspective on everything. Don't you agree? And then so I would take a second, I would get out of my role, and I would go a couple of questions. How would I feel if if this accusation were brought upon me? I want to say I've actually had this experience this year where a teacher or where a student wasn't doing well in my class. He wasn't taking notes. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to. Wasn't finishing his homework. Wasn't finishing his test. Wasn't filling anything out. Was distracting in the class. So it kind of a little bit happened for me. I would say I emailed the parent. The parent said that they believed what their son told them and that it was my fault that I wasn't helping the child improve, even though he had no success whatsoever, or he had no intention of having success whatsoever in the class. Um, and they even went as far as to say he uh, he didn't he's never had problems with other teachers. I guess for me personally, I was pretty frustrated. I wanted him to do well, and I know he could have done well. And then the fact that when I emailed the parent and they didn't seem to um, care of what my opinion was and only worried about what their child had said was kind of frustrating to me, knowing that that what was happening in the classroom was more than what the child was saying. Um, in the end, it ended up working out. The student showed a little bit of progress towards the end of the year, but it wasn't something where, um, he could still be successful. So I'm hoping, since I was sixth grade, I'm hoping that next year he can be a little bit more productive and understand that, yes, this is going to be a little bit more time consuming than the previous years. So let's hope that he can figure that out. The next one is a couple of the red flags that I picked up on were um, the fact that he didn't turn in his homework. What I have personally said as a teacher, I have always told my students when they make the excuse of, oh, I left it at home. Um, I said, well, you did the hard part. You did the hard part of doing the homework. Now do the easy part and bring it to school. Put it in your backpack, bring it to school, turn it in. Okay? Because the hard part is doing it, is doing the assignment. The easy part is turning it in. And so it was always frustrating to me whenever I got a student talk to me about, hey, I left it at home, or well, I left it on my bed, or I lost it, or whatever. Was you finished the homework? You did the hard part. Just turn it in. That's all I ask. Other red flags can include that the parent or that the teacher is singling out Ty. Um, But from a teacher's perspective, I can understand that. I think it's difficult sometimes when you see the um, potential in a student and they don't meet up to that potential. It can be frustrating from a teacher and want to single them out. You want your class to do well, and when that person is distracting the entire class, it makes it even more difficult. Um, Other concerns, Ty is getting concerned of not going to college because of this class. Um, Another red flag could be how the parent is concerned about the safety of the child based on this class. I think it's always important to keep in mind the safety of the child. We don't want them to um, feel unsafe or feel like that they are being put down on specific circumstances. So keep in mind that the safety of a child is one of the highest priorities. I guess what my role would be um, is to make sure that the student and the parent are doing whatever it is in their best interest for their child, not just to pick sides. So like make sure that, you know, we are trying to find a way to get Ty to be successful and not just have it so um, uh, that we are just out to get the teacher because we think the teacher is a bad teacher. I would also think that if the parent thinks that extra counseling might be needed for the mental health of the child, then we can get about doing that. Um, I can, provide different resources. I can talk to this child, or I can talk to Ty for a bit about, each week about what's going on in the class to help if it better resolves his problems inside the class. It makes him more successful. I think we just need to make sure that whatever is necessary, that Ty um, gets that understanding, gets that help that he needs to be successful in the coming, next class, next year, so on and so forth. Next would be the medication. I'm kind of familiar with the medication. I'm, still learning about some medications. The best way I think I can go about learning more about the medication is obviously the internet. The internet is a great source of information and probably has any information about that stuff that we need. I also could talk to any of the school nurses to see what their thoughts or how the medication might affect a student. So if I have a student next year or in the future that is with um, on a medication that isn't necessarily one that I understand, then I can always talk to them to see, hey, what are the symptoms? What's going on with this? When do they take it? Different things like that. I think the two ethical standards that I would think the most important would be the confidentiality and the ability to believe that all the students can succeed. Um, I think confidentiality is an important thing for us to understand as counselors. We don't want to break the law for any reason. I would say that it is important that the teacher knows just what they need to know and just the teacher. And maybe depending on what's going on, the administration staff. I would, not go about saying, hey, this is what's going on in so and so's class to every person that I see out in the hallways. Making sure that only the right personnel needs to know what's going on in order to help the child and help improve the situation. I would also say that um, having every student succeed would be important. We need to make sure as counselors that we aren't just dismissing someone because they have ADHD, that they aren't, that they don't have the success needed to do it because of a condition that they might have. And so in order to keep that open mindset, we need to make sure that we are supporting all students, regardless of, who they are, their race, their background, different diversities, male, female, whatever. Just making sure that we have an unbiased opinion and that we know that they can succeed as a student. I think that, so like the community question, I think that a community in which children can say what they want and feel comfortable in the classroom is a good starting point in which we as counselors can look to make for the success of our children. I think we need to make sure that the children feel most comfortable in our classroom, that they are okay, they're not ridiculed for what they said, both by the teacher and by other students, that they are comfortable coming up and asking for help, that they are comfortable in talking with the teacher if there's a problem that occurs at home that may cause or that may affect coursework in the future. I think that would be the best way to make a community in which we have our students succeed, in order to, get the best out of the children that we need to. And I guess going forward, I would say I would talk to Miss Duncan about the problem to see what her side of the story would be, and what I can do to maybe talk to parents, talk to the administration, talk to the student about Ty and how we can get him better in his class, how we can make it so that he's successful in the class, and maybe not even just in her class. Maybe hers is just the tip of the iceberg, and that we can help him benefit in multiple classes through this idea. Because I'm guessing, from what it sounds like, this might not be the only class that he's struggling to sit still in, and that he might be struggling in other classes. So maybe asking, what other teachers, what have they done in their class to maybe make it easier for them to deal with Ty or to make him more successful. I would also make sure that I see if I can talk to the administration team, see if they have any suggestions on what I can do to help improve the situation. I want to let them know that maybe if problems don't become fixed, or if we can't manage to fix the problem inside the classroom, that the superintendent might be talked to about this, and just give them a fair warning of, this might happen. We're trying to make the best opportunity we can so that this doesn't happen, but we want to make sure that everyone is informed that needs to be informed. Like, I go back to the confidentiality part, making sure that only the right people need to know, in order to keep this kid in Miss Duncan's class and for them to be as successful as possible. Thank you, everyone.